Stop. Do not finish that sentence in your head. I know the one. It begins with, "But if they just understood," and it ends somewhere near midnight, and you have rehearsed it so many times that your own mouth is tired of a conversation that never happened. Put it down. Not because your reasons are weak, because your reasons were never the problem. And tonight, I am going to show you what actually happened the day you went quiet, and why the people who used to move you are suddenly the ones who cannot sleep. My child, listen to me carefully. You did not click on this by accident, and you did not land here because a machine guessed at your loneliness. You are here because I have been waiting for a moment when you would be still enough to hear a voice that is not accusing you. And before this word is finished, two things will be uncovered. The first is the name of what has been feeding off your explanations for years, and I will not soften it when I say it, because you are old enough in the spirit now to hear it plainly. The second is the reason I chose this exact stretch of days, this exact week of your life, to say this to you, and not 5 years ago, when you were begging me for it. Both answers are coming. Neither one is where you think. You went silent, and you thought you had failed. Hear that back. You thought your silence was cowardice. You thought the day you stopped defending yourself was the day you finally lost, because you were raised to believe that truth only survives if you keep it alive with your own breath. So when the words stopped coming, when you opened your mouth to fight for your name and nothing rose, you called it defeat. You went home and sat in your car in the driveway with the engine off and told yourself you should have said something, anything. You replayed the room. You built the perfect answer, 20 minutes too late, and you carried it around like a stone in your coat. But heaven recorded that moment differently. What you called failure, I called the first clean hour of your deliverance. What you experienced as your voice failing you, I authored as my hand closing your mouth, and I closed it not to shame you, but because I could not build what I am building over the noise of you constantly proving that you are good. You do not know yet how expensive your explanations were. You will, before this is over. Now let me tell you why the room feels so strange lately. Have you noticed it? The way certain people have started behaving since you stopped answering. The one who used to be able to summon a reaction from you with a sentence is now sending longer messages than they ever sent when you were available. The one who never once asked how you were is suddenly curious about your plans. The relative who spoke about you in that tone for years has started saying your name softer in rooms you are not in. Someone has started checking. Someone has started circling. And you, in your gentleness, thought maybe they were finally changing. Beloved, some of them are not changing. Some of them are searching for the handle. There was a handle on you. It had a shape and a location and a specific weight, and every one of them knew exactly where it was. Not because they were brilliant, because you showed them. Every time you rushed to explain, you were pointing at the place where you could be lifted. And now they are reaching for a spot on your life and finding smooth ground, and their hand keeps sliding off, and it is making them frantic in a way they cannot say out loud. That is what you are watching. That is what they are watching too. They are watching their power disappear, and the worst part for them is that you are not doing anything to them. You simply stopped supplying it. Stay with me. Because there is a mechanism behind this that most of my children never learn, and once you see it, you will never hand it away again. But before I open that, let me settle something in you, because I can feel the question moving under your ribs even now. You are wondering whether your silence is holy, or whether it is just hurt wearing a spiritual coat. You are wondering if you are consecrated or simply exhausted. That is a real question, and I am not going to insult you by skipping it. There are two silences, and only one of them builds. I will show you how to tell which one is in your mouth, and I will do it without condemning you. But not yet. First, you need to understand what you were actually doing all those years, because you have misnamed it, and a thing that is misnamed cannot be healed. You called it keeping the peace. You called it being the bigger person. You called it clearing up a misunderstanding. It was none of those things. Every explanation you offered to a person who had already decided about you was not communication. It was payment. You were paying for a seat at a table that was never set for you. And the currency you used was your own testimony. You handed over the details of your struggle, the reasons for your delay, the truth about your finances, the private grief behind your absence, the medical thing you never wanted to discuss, the story of what your childhood actually cost you, and you called it honesty. Some of it was, but some of it was ransom, and I watched you pay it again and again to people who had no intention of ever releasing you. Do you understand what happens in the unseen when you do that? You do not merely lose a conversation, you extend a lease. Every explanation renews someone's authority to sit in judgment over your life for another season. They did not have to earn the seat. You kept re-signing the paperwork. And then one day, without ceremony, without a speech, without a single dramatic exit, you stopped signing. That is the day the lease expired. That is why the ground is shifting. That is why some of them are panicking, and others have gone strangely quiet themselves. And one of them in particular is angrier than the situation deserves, because nobody told them the arrangement had an end date. They budgeted for your voice, they planned around your need to be understood, and now the account is closed, and they are standing in front of a door that used to open for them with one sentence. My child, if this is already finding the exact bruise nobody has been allowed to touch, do not brace against it. There is a difference between a hand that strikes a wound and a hand that presses it to find out how deep it goes, and you have been touched by so many of the first kind that you have forgotten what the second one feels like. I am not here to open you for entertainment. I am here because a thing cannot be healed at a depth it has never been examined at, and this particular wound has been living under 3 layers of competence, ministry, and a very convincing smile. You have functioned beautifully while bleeding internally, and everyone around you has taken your functioning as evidence that you were fine. I never took it as evidence. I have been watching the internal bleeding the whole time, and tonight I have come with the intention of stopping it at the source, not treating the surface again. Now, let me take you deeper, because the lease is only the surface. You have believed for most of your life that being understood is the same as being safe. That is the root. That is the actual root, and I am pulling on it now, so brace yourself gently. Somewhere far back, before the job, before the church hurt, before the marriage or the divorce, or the phone call that changed your family forever, you learned that if you could just explain yourself well enough, the punishment would be smaller. Maybe it was a parent who softened when you talked fast enough. Maybe it was a house where being misunderstood meant going hungry, or being hit, or being left outside the circle of love until you performed a satisfactory account of yourself. Maybe it was subtler than that. Maybe you were simply the child whose feelings were always described by other people, and you spent your whole life trying to correct the description. So you built a skill. You became fluent in self-defense. You could feel a misunderstanding forming in a room the way a farmer feels rain coming, and you would start explaining before anyone had even accused you. And here is what it cost you. Are you ready for this one? It cost you the ability to be led, because a person who is always explaining is always looking sideways, always scanning faces, always reading the room to see if they are still acceptable, and a soul that is scanning horizontally cannot receive vertically. You could not hear me clearly for years, not because I was silent, but because you were listening for a verdict from people, while I was speaking a commission over you. 2 frequencies, 1 heart. You kept choosing theirs, and then you wept at night, and asked me why I felt far away. I was not far. I was under the noise. That is your first real revelation tonight, and I want you to sit in it before I move. Your silence did not just protect your reputation. Your silence restored your hearing. Take a breath with me. There is more, and the next part is where it turns sharper. Consider my son for a moment, because you have read the story so many times that you have stopped feeling it. He stood in front of Pilate with every fact on his side. Every fact. Witnesses could have been called. Contradictions could have been named. The accusations were so poorly constructed that even the governor could see the seams. And Jesus, who spoke the world into being, who had never lost an argument with a Pharisee in 3 years of public ministry, opened his mouth and said nothing. And the scripture records something that most people read right past. The governor marveled greatly. Marveled. Not at a defense, at a silence. Do you understand what that means, my child? The silence carried more weight in that room than the truth would have, because the truth spoken into a rigged court becomes evidence for the prosecution, but a silence that will not be provoked exposes the court itself. He did not protect his name. He protected his assignment, because if he had won the argument, he would have lost the cross, and the cross was the whole point. You have been in a rigged room. Say it plainly with me. Some of the rooms you have been explaining yourself in for years were never courts of inquiry. They were performances with a verdict already printed, waiting for you to supply the entertainment. And you kept supplying it, faithfully, beautifully, sincerely, for years. Not anymore. If your spirit just leaned forward, if something in your chest just went quiet and hot at the same time, do not scroll past that feeling. Write it where it can be seen. Put these words in the comments tonight. My silence is not weakness. Not for anyone's approval, but because there are people scrolling through this hour who need to know they are not the only one who finally stopped paying for a seat they were never meant to occupy. But I told you there was a mechanism, and I have not shown it to you yet. Here is where this deepens. When you explain yourself to someone who has already judged you, you are not giving them information. You are giving them access. And access in the unseen realm is not a feeling. It is a legal position. Let me make it plain in a way you cannot unsee. Every time you defended yourself to a person who had no fear of me in the matter, you were dragging your own case out of my court and setting it down in theirs. You were saying, in the language heaven actually reads, I do not trust the judge who sees in secret, so I will submit my evidence to a judge who can look at my face. And I let you. I never took your mouth by force, but while you were presenting your case downstairs, your file upstairs sat waiting, and vindication that I had already prepared could not be released, because a case cannot be ruled on in 2 courts at once. That is the mechanism. That is the thing nobody explains to the wounded. You were not being humble when you over-explained. You were transferring jurisdiction. And the moment you went quiet, the case came home. Do you feel how the atmosphere changed around you in recent weeks? That strange stillness that is not peace exactly, but is not war either. That sense that something is being handled somewhere you cannot see, in a room you are not invited into. You are not imagining it. Your file has been returned to the bench where it always belonged, and I have started ruling on things you stopped arguing about. But I will not lie to you about the cost, because you have been fed enough soft words by people who wanted you to feel good for 11 minutes. There is a grief in this. There is a specific loneliness that comes when you stop defending yourself, and no one warns you about it. It is the loneliness of watching a lie about you travel through a room and not chasing it. It is the ache of being described wrongly by people who once loved you rightly and choosing not to correct the record. It feels like dying a small death every time. It feels like you are letting them win. You are not letting them win. You are letting me finish. Now hear this carefully, because this is the part I do not want you to miss. Some of you have been so faithful in this silence that you have begun to wonder if I even noticed. You have held your tongue in rooms where holding your tongue nearly broke your teeth. You have watched someone take credit for a thing you built while praying quietly and going home to a house where nobody claps. You have been the subject of a story that was told about you at a family gathering while you sat there and ate and said nothing, and afterward you cried in the bathroom and washed your face and came back out smiling. I saw every one of those. Not one was wasted. Not one was invisible. And what you thought was you swallowing your dignity was actually you laying a foundation stone in the dark. And I will show you before this word ends what is being built on those stones. because it is far larger than your name being cleared. If these messages have been meeting you in the private places of your life, in the seasons where you had no one to talk to, and you feel led to help keep this work standing, you can support through Ko-fi in the description. And I want you to know that a quiet gift from a quiet season carries weight. Now let us go after the second thing. Why now? You prayed for this years ago. You did. You asked me to shut the mouths of your accusers when you were 20-something, and hurting and desperate, and it did not happen. You asked me to make them see. You asked me to send someone to explain you to them so you would not have to. You lay on the floor of an apartment with thin walls and asked me for one person who would just believe you without a presentation. And I did not answer that prayer the way you asked. I want to tell you why, and I want to tell you why the answer is arriving now instead. Back then, if I had silenced your accusers, you would have learned that being right is what saves you. You would have built the next 20 years of your walk with me on a foundation of vindication, and vindication is a beautiful gift, but a terrible foundation. Every future accusation would have sent you back to me, demanding another rescue, and you would have become a believer who could only stand when heaven was actively clearing your name. That is not a son, that is not a daughter, that is a dependent. So I let the misunderstanding stand. I let it stay unresolved for years, and in the unresolved years, something began to grow in you that could not have grown any other way. You developed the one thing that cannot be taught in a room where everybody agrees with you. You developed a self that does not need a witness. That is not coldness. That is not pride. That is the anatomy of authority. And now, at this precise point in your life, that self is finally load-bearing. That is why now. Because I am about to place something on you that would have crushed the older version of you. Not because they were weak, but because the older version of you would have carried it while still asking the crowd if they were doing it right. And the thing I am giving you cannot be carried with your head turned sideways. Do you want to know what it is? I will name it later in this word. Not because I enjoy delay, but because you are not finished being repositioned yet, and I have learned how you handle information. Stay with me. Meanwhile, let us look honestly at them, the ones watching their power disappear. I want you to notice something. I did not tell you to hate them. I have not called them your enemies in this word, and I have chosen my words with care. Some of them are not evil. Some of them are simply people who got used to a version of you that made their life easier, and now that version has died, and they are grieving without knowing they are grieving. Grief, in an unsurrendered heart, comes out as anger. That is why the tone changed. Others are different. Others knew exactly what they were doing. There was a person, and your mind just put a face to that sentence before I finished it, who understood that your need to be understood was a lever, and they pulled it deliberately whenever they wanted to move you. They would say something slightly wrong about you, just slightly, just enough, and wait. And you would come running with the correction. And in that moment, they had you exactly where they wanted you, which was in the position of the one who owes an account. You have finally stopped running, and they are pulling the lever, and nothing is moving. I want you to understand what that feels like on their end, not so you can gloat, but so you stop misreading their behavior as repentance. When a lever stops working, the first response is not to change. The first response is to pull it harder. So expect the accusations to get slightly more absurd for a moment. Expect the story about you to become more dramatic. Expect a sudden crisis that requires your immediate response. Expect a message that arrives at the exact hour of night when your defenses are lowest, worded in a way that only someone who knows your history could word it. That is not the enemy being clever. That is the enemy being predictable. And here is the layer beneath that layer, and this one matters more than everything I have said so far. The person is not your real opponent. The person is the hand. Something else is wearing them like a glove in this matter, and that something has been assigned to your voice specifically, from a very early age. Think about it with me. Why your voice? Why has this been the pattern of your whole life? Why is it that you, out of all your siblings, out of everyone in your workplace, out of everyone in that church are the one who has spent decades being misread. Do you think that is personality? Do you think that is bad luck? There is an assignment against people who are going to say something, not people who talk, people who are going to say something. And the strategy is never to remove the voice. The strategy is to occupy it. To keep the mouth so busy defending yesterday that it never gets to declare tomorrow. A voice that spends its strength on self-defense is a voice that never gets to prophesy. 20 years of explanations. Do the arithmetic on that. Count the hours. Count the sentences you have spent proving you are not what they said. Where did all that language go? What could it have built? Now you know why the silence terrified you. Because the silence is where the assignment breaks. And now you know why they are frantic. Because the glove is empty. The lever is dead. And the mouth they occupied is coming back online. And it is not going to be used for defense anymore. If your whole body just went still, let that be your sign that this word found the right address. And let it also be your notice that you were never as alone in this as the enemy needed you to feel. There are thousands of people receiving this same word tonight, in different cities, in different languages, carrying the same closed mouth and the same open wound. And if you could see the map of it, you would weep at how coordinated your rescue actually is. Now, I said I would tell you how to know which silence is in your mouth, the holy one or the wounded one. Let us go there, because this is where some of my children get stuck for years and mistake a scab for a seal. Here is the difference, and it is not complicated, but it is exact. Wounded silence rehearses, consecrated silence releases. Let me unfold that, because you need the diagnostic more than you need the comfort right now. Wounded silence is loud on the inside. It does not actually stop talking. It simply moves the argument indoors. You do not answer them out loud anymore, but at 2 a.m, you are standing in a courtroom you built yourself, delivering the closing statement of your life to an empty gallery. You win every time. You destroy them with the perfect sentence every time. And you wake up more tired than when you lay down, because you have spent the whole night in litigation. My child, I need you to be honest with me about how many nights that has been. That is not consecration, that is captivity with the lights off. And I am not condemning you for it, because a mouth can be closed long before a heart is free. And most of my children live in that gap for a long time, without anyone telling them it is a gap. But I love you too much to let you decorate a prison and call it a sanctuary. Consecrated silence is different. Consecrated silence has actually let go of the outcome. It does not need them to eventually find out. It has stopped scheduling the day when the truth comes out and everyone apologizes. It is not waiting for the phone call where they finally admit what they did. It has released the future of the story to me and gone back to work. Here is how you test yourself, and do it now, gently, without punishing yourself for the result. When their name comes up unexpectedly, what happens in your stomach? Not what happens in your theology. Not what you would say if someone asked you whether you had forgiven them. What happens in your body in the first half second before your religion has time to arrive and dress the moment properly? If there is a drop, if there is a heat, if there is that familiar tightening, then the silence is holding, but the wound is still open underneath it, and I am not asking you to be ashamed of that. I am asking you to bring it to me instead of managing it. Because here is what I know about you that you do not say out loud. You are afraid that if you fully let go of the need to be understood, then what they said about you becomes permanent. As if your inner protest is the only thing holding the lie in place. As if the moment you stop objecting, the false version of you becomes the official one, forever, in every room, and you disappear behind it. That fear is the last hook in your mouth, and I am taking it out tonight. Hear me. Your reputation is not held together by your explanations. It never was. If a name could be preserved by argument, then every liar with a good vocabulary would have an unblemished name, and every honest person with a stutter would be ruined. That is not how I run the earth. There is a slower and far more thorough mechanism at work, and you have seen it operate before, though you may not have recognized it. Time. Time is the servant I send after the ones who will not defend themselves. Watch what happens to a story about you when you stop feeding it. It does not have infinite fuel. A lie needs maintenance. It needs new evidence, fresh outrage, a reaction to point at. Deny it all three, and it begins to age badly. The people who repeat it start to notice that the person they are describing has not done a single thing in 5 years to match the description. That gap widens, and one day, without you saying a word, someone in that room says quietly, "Wait, that does not match what I have actually seen," and the whole architecture tilts. That is vindication in the natural. It is unglamorous. It is slow. It does not come with the satisfying scene you have been directing in your head, but it is thorough in a way that your best argument could never be, because a truth that arrives without your fingerprints on it cannot be dismissed as self-interest. Do you know what makes this even better? You will very often not be present when it happens. You will not get the video. Someone will defend you in a room you have never entered, and you will never know their name. And that is exactly how I designed it, because the goal was never for you to be applauded. The goal was for you to be free of the need. Take that in. Let it sit. And if your spirit is agreeing with this, if something in you is saying yes, even while your flesh mourns the scene, it will not get to witness. Let your like on this video be that quiet yes. Not for the algorithm, as a marker between you and me, that on this night you agreed to stop being your own defense attorney. Now I want to tell you what your silence has been doing in the room where I keep the things I am building. You have imagined your silence as an absence, a hole where words used to be. That is not what it is. In the spirit, restraint is a substance. When a person who has every right to speak chooses not to, something dense forms around them. Men call it presence. They cannot explain it. They will say things like, "There is something about them," or "The room changes when they walk in," or "I do not know why, but I listen when they talk." That is not charisma. Charisma is cheap, and it can be purchased with confidence and a good voice. What you are growing is weight. Weight is what happens when a person has been proven in the unwitnessed places. It cannot be faked, and it cannot be borrowed, and there is no shortcut to it, which is precisely why it is so rare and why I am willing to spend years of your life producing it. Every time you swallowed a justified word, you added density. Every time you let a false impression stand, rather than fight in an unclean room, you added density. And now, when you do finally speak, people will feel a difference and not know why. Do you see what I have been doing? I did not take your voice. I have been compressing it. There is a reason the deepest wells are dug in silence, and a reason the loudest streams are the shallowest, and you have been dug rather than filled. It hurt because digging hurts, but you cannot hold what I am about to pour if I only ever filled you. And here is the part that turns this from comfort into commission, so lean in. The season of your silence is not permanent. I know some of you have made peace with never speaking again, and that peace is actually a mild form of despair wearing a saint's clothing. You have decided that the safest life is the invisible one, and you have begun to call your withdrawal wisdom. I understand why, but I did not close your mouth in order to retire you. I closed it to retrain it. There is a difference between a mouth that is silent because it is defeated and a mouth that is silent because it is being loaded. You are being loaded, and when I open it again, and I will, the first thing that comes out of you will not be a defense of your past. It will be an instruction for someone else's future. That is the exchange I am making with you. You gave up the right to be understood, and in return, you are receiving the authority to be believed. Those are not the same currency, and the second one is worth immeasurably more. If you know you are in that exact season, the one where your mouth has been closed and your heart has been raw, and you cannot afford to miss what heaven is saying next, then subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell, because these words do not come in isolation. They come in sequence. This is the second half of a conversation heaven has been having with you for months. and the next portion is already on its way. Do not let it arrive when you are not looking. Now, my child, I must correct something in you. Gently, but I will not skip it, because love that only comforts is not love, it is management. You have been enjoying this a little too much in one specific direction. Somewhere in the last few minutes, while I was describing their panic, part of you smiled. Not the holy part, the part that has been waiting a long time to watch them squirm. I saw it. I am not shocked by it, and I am not withdrawing from you because of it. But I am going to name it, because if I do not, this silence you have built will curdle into something I cannot use. There is a version of this season where you become the most impressive, most composed, most unbothered person in every room, and you use your silence as a weapon. You withhold your words the way they withheld their approval. You let people wonder. You enjoy the fact that they cannot reach you, and slowly, invisibly, you become fluent in a coldness that looks like strength and functions like a wall, and the same mouth I closed in mercy becomes a door I cannot open anymore, because you have started to like the safety of never being known. That is not who I am forming. Hear the distinction carefully. I am not making you unreachable. I am making you unmovable. A rock in the sea is unmovable, but the sea still touches it, still shapes the moss on its side, still receives it. A fortress is unreachable, and inside a fortress, things starve. So this is the correction, and receive it as a father's hand, and not as a slap. Do not let your silence become a punishment you administer. Do not weaponize the very thing I gave you to heal you. When you refuse to explain yourself, let it be because your case is with me, not because you want them to suffer the absence of you. The moment your silence carries revenge in it, it stops carrying weight and starts carrying poison, and poison always leaks into the one holding it first. Now, I want to show you something you have not considered at all, and this one is going to reframe an entire relationship in your life within the next 30 seconds. Some of the people who lost their power over you are not going to fight you. They are going to leave, and their leaving is going to hurt worse than their attacks ever did. Understand what happened structurally. Some relationships in your life were not built on love. They were built on function. You were the explainer, they were the audience, and the entire arrangement ran on that exchange. When you stopped performing your role, the arrangement lost its engine. There is no argument to have. There is no betrayal to point to. The thing simply stops, quietly, the way a machine stops when the power is cut, and everyone stands there confused, because nobody did anything wrong. You are going to lose people to your own healing. Say that with me, because you need to hear it in your own voice. I am going to lose people to my own healing, and you will grieve them. You will grieve them at strange hours. A song will come on, or you will pass a restaurant, and you will feel the loss of someone who is not dead and did not hate you and simply cannot exist in the same room as the person you are becoming. That grief is legitimate. Do not spiritualize it away. Do not let anyone tell you that if it was real, it would have lasted. Some real things end. But hear what I am doing underneath the loss, because this is the part that will keep you from going back. Every relationship that required you to keep explaining yourself was consuming a portion of your capacity, not your time. Your capacity. There is only so much of you, and a soul that is constantly translating itself for people who refuse to learn the language has very little left over for the ones I am sending. And I am sending some. You have not met them yet, most of you. There are people I have already prepared for you who will not require an explanation. That is not a fantasy. That is a promise, with a mechanism behind it, because I do not build every relationship on the same terms. There is a kind of person who recognizes rather than interrogates. They will look at you and understand something about you within an hour that your own family failed to see in 30 years, and you will not have to prove a single thing to earn it, and it will unsettle you at first, because you will keep reaching for your defense and finding that no one is asking. But they cannot come while your capacity is spent. This is not punishment, it is arithmetic. The empty seat has to exist before the right person can sit in it, and some of the seats in your life have been occupied for years by people who only ever came for the show. If this has been reaching the places nobody has access to, and you feel led to stand with this ministry, so these words can keep going out to the ones sitting alone in the dark tonight, you can support this work through the Ko-fi link below. And whether you ever give a thing or not, stay with me, because what is coming next is the part I most want you to hear. There is a story in my word that belongs to you in this hour, and I do not want you to nod at it. I want you to stand inside it. There was a man named Nehemiah, and he was rebuilding a wall. Understand what that meant. The city he loved was in ruins, and the ruin was not new. It was old ruin, comfortable ruin. Ruin that everyone had learned to live around, the way your family learned to live around, the thing that happened, the way that church learned to live around what that leader did, the way you learned to live around the room in your heart that nobody is allowed to enter, and this man decided to rebuild. The opposition did not come as an army first. That is the detail I want you to see. It came as conversation. They sent him a message. Come down and let us meet together. Let us talk. Let us clear this up. Let us come to an understanding. Out on the plain, just you and us, in a neutral place. And he sent back one of the most important sentences in the entire scripture for a person in your season. I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and come down to you? 4 times they sent the invitation. 4 times. The same message, the same courteous tone, the same reasonable request. And 4 times he refused to descend. Do you see it? They did not ask him to stop building. They asked him to explain himself somewhere lower. That is the trap, my child. That is the exact trap, and it has your name on it in this season, and it is coming to you soon in a form that will look nothing like an attack. It will look like maturity. It will look like closure. It will arrive in words you have been longing to hear. Can we just talk? Can we clear the air? I feel like there is a misunderstanding between us. I want to hear your side. I never got to hear your side. And everything in you that is still 9 years old will want to run down that hill. Listen to me. Some conversations are not conversations. They are altitude negotiations. The purpose is not understanding. The purpose is to get you off the wall, standing on level ground with people who cannot climb, in a place where your progress stops for as long as the discussion lasts. And the discussion never ends, because it was never designed to end. That is why they sent it 4 times. A resolution was never the point. The delay was the point. Now, I am not telling you to become a person who refuses every reconciliation. Hear my heart. There are conversations I will absolutely send you into, and you will know them because they will not require you to defend your worth, only to speak your truth. There is a difference between a table and a trap. Here is the discernment, and I want you to write it somewhere you will see it again. At a table, both people arrive with something to lay down. At a trap, only you arrive with something to prove. If the meeting requires you to prove that you are not what they said, do not go. If the meeting is happening because both parties are tired of the distance, and one of them has already begun changing without an audience, then go, and go with an open hand. And when the invitation comes and you decline, expect the 5th message, because after the 4th refusal, Nehemiah received a different kind of letter, and this is the part almost nobody preaches. When the polite invitations failed, they sent an open letter with a rumor in it. It is reported among the nations, they wrote, that you are planning rebellion. People are saying things about you. There is talk. Understand the escalation. When they cannot get you down with kindness, they will try to get you down with your reputation. They will make sure you hear what is being said, not so you can correct it, so you will come down to correct it. And Nehemiah's reply is the posture I am building in you. He said, there are no such things done as you say, but you feign them out of your own heart. And then he prayed one line, strengthen my hands, not clear my name, not vindicate me, not make them stop. Strengthen my hands, because the wall was still going up, and hands that are busy defending cannot lay stone. That is your prayer for this season, and I want you to feel how different it is from the prayer you have been praying. You have been asking me to change their minds. I am waiting for you to ask me to strengthen your hands. Say it now if you can, even under your breath. Strengthen my hands. And if that sentence just did something in your chest, put it in the comments where others can see it, because there are people scrolling through this tonight who are one message away from coming down off their wall, and your 3 words might be what keeps them building. Write it plainly. Strengthen my hands. Let it be a declaration, not a caption. Now, let me tell you about the wall you are actually building, since we are here. You think you are simply healing. You think this season is about recovery, about getting over what happened, about learning boundaries, and becoming a healthier version of the person you already were. That is far too small. You are not being repaired. You are being repositioned. There is a difference, and the difference is going to define the next decade of your life. Repair returns a thing to its former condition. Repositioning takes a thing out of one system and places it into another. And what I am doing with you is not restoring you to the life you had before the betrayal, before the layoff, before the diagnosis, before the church split, before the marriage ended. I am not putting you back. There is nothing back there for you. Some of you have been praying for restoration, when what you actually need is relocation. And the reason those prayers have felt strange in your own mouth lately is because your spirit already knows. The silence was the removal. And removal always feels like abandonment at first, because you cannot see the new placement while you are in transit. Now, let me give you a detail about your future that I have not said yet, and it explains why the enemy fought your voice so specifically. There are people coming to you who will need the exact thing you were never able to make anyone understand. Read that again slowly, because it will take a moment to land. The very thing you could not explain, the season nobody believed, the pain that made people uncomfortable when you described it. The strange path your life took that everyone had an opinion about. The years that looked like waste, the decision that made your family think you had lost your mind, the suffering that had no category, so people gave it the wrong name, and you spent years correcting them, and eventually gave up. That is the material. That is not your embarrassment. That is your inventory. You have been carrying a testimony in a language that your current audience does not speak, and I have been moving you toward the people who were born speaking it. When they arrive, you will not need to explain. You will begin one sentence, and they will finish it, and something in them will break open, and they will weep in front of you, and you will understand in that moment why I did not let you be understood earlier. Because if they had understood you, you would have been comforted, and comfort would have closed the wound too early, and a wound that closes too early holds nothing. Some things must stay open long enough to become a doorway. I did not withhold understanding from you out of cruelty. I preserved the depth of your story so it could reach the depth of theirs. And this is why the assault on your voice was so specific, so early, and so relentless. Not because you are talkative, because there is an entire population of people who cannot be reached by an untested voice, and you were built for them, and the strategy was to keep you so busy defending yesterday that you never turned to face them. So let us talk plainly about what is happening around you right now, because you have been misreading the signs, and misreading the signs at this stage can cost you months. There are 3 movements you will see, and you may be seeing all 3 at once. The first is the sudden reach. Someone who has not thought about you in a meaningful way in a long time will make contact, and it will feel warm. It may genuinely be warm, but notice the shape of the conversation. Notice how quickly it turns toward information. What are you doing now? Are you still with that company? Are you seeing anyone? How is that thing going, the one you mentioned? It is not always malice, my child. Sometimes it is simply hunger, but something in them needs to know where you are, because they can no longer feel where you are, and they used to always know. The second is the escalation. The story about you will get louder for a short season. This is the part that will test you most, because it will feel like the exact opposite of vindication. You will hear that someone said something outrageous, something so far from the truth that it is almost funny, except that it is not funny at all, because someone you love believed it. And every cell in you will scream that this one, you have to answer. Hear me. The volume of a lie is proportional to its instability. A lie that is winning does not need to shout. When a false story about you suddenly grows arms and legs, it is not because it is taking root. It is because it is losing its grip and needs more force to stay attached. Do not confuse the noise of collapse with the noise of victory. The third movement is the strangest one, and it is the sign I told you at the beginning I would describe before this word ended. Here it is. Someone is going to rewrite your history in front of you. They will tell a story about a time you were both there for, and in their version, you will be different, softer, or harsher, or less involved, or more difficult. And you will sit there with your mouth slightly open, realizing that they are not lying exactly. They actually believe it. They have edited the record in their own mind, because the true version does not survive contact with the person you are becoming. That is the sign that their power is gone, my child. Not their anger, their editing. When someone begins revising the past, it means the present no longer supports the story they need to tell about themselves. They are not fighting you anymore. They are fighting the memory of you, and the memory is winning. Do not correct them in that moment. And I know what I just asked, so let me tell you what happens if you do, because I never give you a restraint without showing you what is behind it. If you correct the record in that room, you will hand them the one thing they no longer have, which is a version of events with your signature on it. The moment you engage the edited story, you become a participant in the negotiation over your own history, and anything you say becomes a new document they can quote, misquote, and carry into other rooms. Your silence leaves them holding a story that only they can vouch for, and a story with one witness eventually dies of loneliness. Let it die of loneliness. There is something else too, something quieter. Every time you refuse to enter that negotiation, a portion of your attention is returned to you, and attention is the raw material of everything I want to build with you next. You cannot receive instruction in a mind that is occupied by litigation. If you know somebody who is in the middle of this exact fight tonight, someone who is being described wrongly and is one keystroke away from sending the message that will undo 6 months of their healing, send them this, not as content, as a hand on the shoulder. Some people will not receive a word like this from a pulpit, but they will receive it at 1 a.m. from a friend who simply said, "I thought of you. Now, let me go somewhere tender, because I have been strong with you for a while, and there is a part of you that has been waiting for me to notice something. You are tired. Not the tired that sleep fixes, the other one. The tired that comes from being strong in a way nobody applauds, in a house where nobody knows, in a body that keeps going to work. You have been holding this posture for a long time, and you have done it with almost no encouragement. And there have been days recently when you were not sure whether you were being obedient or simply numb. I want to speak to that exhaustion directly, because it deserves an answer and not a slogan. The fatigue you feel is not the fatigue of failure. It is the fatigue of load-bearing. There is a specific weariness that comes only to people who are holding something up, and it feels identical to the weariness of falling apart, which is why so many of my children quit 2 weeks before the shift. You cannot tell the difference from the inside, only from above. So let me tell you from above. You are holding something up. It is not collapsing. You are. And I have not required you to hold it alone, though I understand why it has felt that way, and I am not going to argue with your experience. But I will tell you what I have been doing while you were exhausted. I have been keeping things from reaching you. There are 3 specific pressures that were scheduled for your life in the last 18 months that never arrived, and you do not know about them because they never happened, and you cannot thank me for a disaster you never experienced. But I want you to know tonight that the reason certain years were survivable was not your strength. It was my restraint of what I permitted. You have been protected in ways you have never been told. Let that land somewhere deep. There is a version of the last 2 years that was worse, and you never met it. And I want you to notice something about how I do this, because it will change how you interpret my silence in the future. I very rarely tell you what I have prevented. If I did, you would spend your whole life in relief instead of in growth. And gratitude, built entirely on avoided catastrophe, becomes a nervous kind of worship. So I keep my protections quiet, which means the silence you experienced from me in some of those hard seasons was not distance. It was me working in a room you were not permitted to see, on a problem I did not want you to know existed. Sit with that. You have accused me of absence during the very hours I was most active on your behalf. I am not offended. I am simply setting the record straight, since we are speaking honestly tonight about records. And here is where this turns, so stay with me, because the next thing I say is going to reframe every unanswered prayer you have ever prayed about these people. You asked me many times to make them understand. I never did it, not once, not for any of you, not really, not in the way you meant. And I want to tell you why, because you have interpreted my refusal as either my disinterest or my displeasure, and it was neither. I will not force understanding into a heart that has chosen not to see, because understanding is not information. Understanding is a moral act. It requires humility, and humility cannot be installed from the outside without destroying the person. If I overrode their will to make them see you correctly, I would have to override the very faculty that makes love possible in them, and I do not do that. Not for you, not for anyone. So when you ask me to make them understand, you are asking me to violate the only thing in them that could ever be redeemed. This is why the prayer went unanswered. Not because I did not care about your name, because I care about their soul, and yours, more than I care about the accuracy of an opinion. But hear what I did instead, because I did not do nothing. While you were praying for them to understand, I was working to make you free from needing them to. Those are 2 different miracles, and the second one is far greater, and it is nearly complete in you. You just did not recognize it as an answer, because it arrived in the wrong shape. How many of my answers have you thrown away because they came in the wrong shape? Now, my child, I must take you into a room you have avoided for years. It will be uncomfortable for about 3 minutes. Do not leave. There is a person you still explain yourself to who cannot hear you. Some of you know instantly who I mean. For some, it is a parent who is no longer living, and you have carried a whole argument to a grave and continued it there, laying flowers and reasons on the same stone. For some, it is a person who moved to another country, another marriage, another life, and has not thought of you in 9 years while you have been composing your defense every week. For some, it is a version of a person who no longer exists, because the one who hurt you has changed, and the one you argue with in your head is frozen at the age they were when they did it. You have been performing a trial for an empty gallery, and the gallery cannot even hear the case. This is why some of you have not felt relief, even after the person disappeared from your life. You removed them from your calendar, but not from your courtroom. And so you are still in session, every night, with a defendant who never shows up, and a jury that went home years ago. Tonight, I am dismissing the case. Not because you were wrong, because the court has no jurisdiction and never did, and it is time for you to walk out of a building that I never built. I want you to picture it, and do not rush this. The room you have been arguing in, whatever it looks like, a kitchen, a church office, a hospital corridor, a living room with the television on. You know the room. You have returned to it thousands of times. Walk to the door. You do not have to win first. That is the whole thing, my child. You do not have to deliver the closing statement first. You do not have to hear the apology first. You do not have to make them say your name correctly first. You can walk out mid-sentence with the argument unfinished, and the record unclear, and the injustice standing. And the moment you cross that threshold, the room loses its power to summon you. And when you step out, you will find that I have been standing in the hallway the entire time. Not disappointed with how long it took you, not tapping my foot, standing there, the way a father stands outside a room where his child is having a hard conversation, close enough to hear, waiting to walk them home. Take a moment, breathe. Some of you just felt something come off your shoulders, and you are not sure what it was. It was a docket. You have been carrying a caseload that was never assigned to you. If that just happened in you, let the comments be an altar for a moment. Write what you are walking out of tonight, not the whole story. You do not owe anyone the details, just the shape of it. And if you see someone else's words there, and something in you recognizes it, pray one line for them before you scroll on. There is a kind of agreement that happens between strangers who are carrying the same weight, and I honor it in a way you will not fully understand until later. Now, I promised you earlier that I would tell you what I am about to place on you, the thing your silence has been preparing you to carry. I have delayed on purpose, because you needed the courtroom emptied before you could hear it properly. A soul in litigation cannot receive an assignment. It can only receive a defense. But before I name it, there is one more piece of ground to clear, and it is the hardest one. You have to let them keep the misunderstanding, not forgive them. That is a different work, and you have done more of it than you give yourself credit for. This is something else, and I want to be precise. You must release the requirement that the truth about you ever becomes public in this lifetime. I know what that costs. There is a specific dream you have quietly held, and it is not a sinful dream, it is a deeply human one. In it, there is a day. Everyone is in the room, and the truth comes out fully, in detail, with evidence, and their faces change, and someone says your name with the respect they withheld, and someone else weeps and says they were wrong about you. You have never told anyone about that scene. You may not have even admitted it to yourself, but it plays, and it comforts you, and it has kept you moving through some very dark months. I am asking you to lay that scene down, and I am not asking because it will never happen. Some of you will get a version of that day, and it will be sweeter than you imagined, and also strangely small, because vindication always tastes different in the mouth than it does in the imagination. But most of you will not get a scene. You will get something better and quieter. You will get a life that makes the accusation irrelevant. That is the reversal I am working, and here is the mechanism behind it, since I promised you mechanisms and not just comfort. Accusation attaches to a person's position. It has to. A lie about you must be anchored to a version of you that people can locate. But when I move you into a season that the accusation does not fit, the lie loses its anchor point. Nobody has to disprove it. It simply becomes unrecognizable. The people who repeated it look at your life and cannot find the hook to hang it on anymore. And slowly, awkwardly, they stop repeating it, and eventually, they will not remember that they ever did. That is not vindication by argument. That is vindication by relocation. And it is coming, not as a speech, as a door. Now hear this, because I want you to understand how differently heaven measures these things. In the accounting of men, the one who speaks last wins. In my economy, the one who can wait longest without speaking is the one holding the most authority, because the ability to remain silent under accusation is the single clearest evidence of a soul that has stopped needing the approval of a room. Every hour you have held your peace has been quietly recorded, not because I keep score against you, because I am building a case for you, and unlike the case you were building at 2 in the morning, mine will actually be heard. If this is landing on you like water, on ground that has been dry for a very long time, then let this channel be a place you keep returning to, because heaven does not speak to you in isolated fragments. Subscribe and stay connected, so that when the next portion of this conversation comes, it finds you already listening. This is a channel for people carrying assignments nobody has confirmed yet, and if that is you, you already know it, and you should not be walking this stretch of road without confirmation arriving on schedule. Now let me open something I have not touched at all yet, and this is where the whole word turns. You were their mirror. That is what they are actually losing, and it is far more disturbing to them than losing control of you. Let me explain, because this is the layer underneath the whole thing, and once you see it, several relationships in your life will finally make sense after years of confusion. Certain people did not keep you close because they valued you. They kept you close because of what your presence allowed them to believe about themselves. Next to your struggle, they felt stable. Next to your delay, they felt chosen. Next to your softness, they felt shrewd. Next to your grief, they felt fortunate. And every time you explained yourself to them, you were holding up a mirror in which they looked wise, patient, generous, and superior, and they got to feel that way for free, at your expense, for years. That is why your peace unsettles them more than your pain ever did. You stopped explaining, and the mirror turned around. Now, when they look in your direction, they do not see themselves flattered. They see a person who is quiet, composed, and unavailable for comparison, and in that flat surface, they have started to catch a glimpse of their own reflection unretouched. That is what is keeping them awake, not you, themselves, finally, without a filter. Do you understand now why some of them are angry beyond all proportion? You did not insult them. You stopped absorbing them. And a person who has been outsourcing their self-image to someone else's inferiority will experience that person's healing as an act of aggression. It is not aggression. It is the end of a service you were never paid for and never agreed to provide. And this, my child, is the reason I have to warn you about something before we go further. There will be a temptation in the coming months, and it will be dressed in compassion, so watch for it. You will feel sorry for them. You will see the discomfort in their eyes, and something ancient in you, something formed long before you knew me, will want to restore their comfort by lowering yourself back into the old position. Just a little, just enough to make the room easy again. One self-deprecating comment, one unnecessary apology, one explanation nobody asked for, offered to smooth the air. Do not do it. And here is why. Because a warning without revelation is just a rule, and I do not build you with rules. The moment you lower yourself to restore someone's comfort, you re-enter the covenant you just came out of. It is not a small thing. In the unseen, that gesture reopens the door that was sealed, and the terms resume exactly where they left off, and everything you have built in silence goes back onto the table as collateral. That is why the enemy will spend so much energy on such a small moment. He is not trying to humiliate you. He is trying to get one signature. And there is something else I want you to know about that moment. Every time you refuse it, someone else is set free. Not metaphorically. There are people in your bloodline and in your circle who are watching what you do with this, and some of them have never once seen a person hold a boundary without cruelty. You are the demonstration. You may be the first in 4 generations of your family to stand still without either attacking or apologizing, and what you do in these unglamorous ordinary moments is teaching a pattern to people who will use it long after you are gone. That is what is on the other side of that restraint. Not just your protection, a precedent. Now, I said this was where the word turns, and I have kept you waiting long enough. Here is what I am placing on you. I am giving you a voice that carries decision, not volume. Not a platform, necessarily, though for some of you there will be one. I mean something more specific and more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. I am giving you the kind of voice that, when it speaks, something has to move. A word from you that lands on a person and rearranges what they thought was permanent. A sentence in a meeting that changes the direction of a project. A prayer over a body that does not stay unanswered. A message sent at the right hour that stops someone from doing what they had already decided to do. That is what has been under assault since you were young, not your reputation. Your yes and your no. Because a voice that carries decision cannot be allowed to develop in someone who has spent their entire life needing permission. And you cannot receive that kind of voice while you are still spending it on justification. It is the same mouth, my child. There is only one. Everything you say to prove you are acceptable is subtracted from what you could have said to set someone free. That is why I closed it, not to punish you, to stop the drain. Do you feel the difference between how this word started and where you are standing now? At the beginning, you were mourning a silence. Now you are being handed the reason for it. If that just settled something in you that has been unsettled for years, hit like on this video as your act of agreement, and let it mean something between you and heaven, not just on a screen. Let it be the mark you put down on the night you stopped believing your silence was a punishment. Now, let me deal with a question that just formed in you, since you have never been able to hide your thoughts from me anyway. You are wondering how long. How long does this silent stretch last? When does the door open? When do I get to speak? And you want a date, because dates make waiting feel survivable. I will not give you a date, and I will tell you the honest reason. If I gave you a date, you would spend the remaining time preparing for the day, instead of becoming the person the day requires. Deadlines produce performance, uncertainty produces character, and I am after the second, because the first will not survive what I am about to give you access to. But I will give you something better than a date. I will give you the signs of the threshold, so you will know when you are close. The first sign is that the desire to defend yourself will die, not be suppressed, die. There will come a morning when their name comes up, and you will notice, with genuine surprise, that nothing moved in you. No heat, no drop, just information. That is not numbness, and you will be able to tell the difference, because numbness feels like fog, and freedom feels like air. The second sign is that you will begin to receive instruction instead of reassurance. Your prayer life will change texture. You will stop asking me whether I am with you, and start asking me what I want done. When your conversations with me shift from comfort to strategy, the door is closed. The third sign is that a person will ask you for something you cannot fake. Someone will come to you with a need that requires the exact substance you developed in the silence, and you will open your mouth without preparation, and words will come out that surprise you. You will hear yourself say something you did not know you knew. That is the first crack of the door, and it usually happens in an ordinary place. A parking lot, a break room, a hospital waiting area, not a stage. Watch for that moment. Do not despise it, because it is small. Everything I have ever done in the earth started smaller than people expected. And now, before I take you into the deepest part of this word, there is one thing about your accusers that I have not revealed yet, and it is the thing the enemy most hoped you would never learn. Your explanations were being collected. Not remembered, collected. I want you to think about this carefully, because it will change how you speak for the rest of your life. Every time you defended yourself in detail, you did not simply lose an argument. You filed a report. You told them where the pressure points were. You told them what you were afraid of, what you were ashamed of, what you were still recovering from, what you could not afford, who had already hurt you, and how. You handed over a map of your interior, drawn in your own handwriting, and you did it sincerely, hoping the map would produce mercy. Some of it did. I am not making everyone in your life a villain. Some people received your honesty and held it well, and you know who they are, and you should honor them. But some of the most painful things that have ever been said to you were quoted from your own testimony. Sit with that. The comment that cut deepest, the one that found the precise nerve, the one that made you wonder how anyone could know to aim there. They knew because you told them. Not recently, years ago, in a moment of trust, when you were explaining yourself. That is the harvest that has now stopped, and that is a truer picture of what has disappeared than mere power. They have lost their supply of you, and an enemy that has run out of intelligence cannot conduct a precise operation. He can only make noise, and noise is survivable, and this is why the attacks lately have felt loud but strangely clumsy, missing the mark in ways they never used to. Do you see it now? Do you see why heaven closed the channel? You thought you were losing your ability to connect. I was cutting a supply line. Now hear the pastoral side of this, because I never leave a revelation without care. I am not telling you to become a closed and suspicious person who trusts no one and shares nothing. That is not protection. That is a slow starvation of the soul, and I did not go through the cross to produce hardened people. Here is the standard I am giving you instead, and it is simple enough to carry. Your story is not owed, it is entrusted. There will be people who receive it because I place them in your life to carry a portion of your history with you. There will be many more who ask for it out of curiosity, appetite, or strategy. The difference is not always visible in the moment, which is why I am asking you to move at the speed of confirmation rather than the speed of pressure. If you feel rushed to disclose, that pressure is not from me. I never hurry a heart into exposure. Anything that demands your transparency on a deadline is not seeking intimacy, it is conducting an interview. And if you have already given too much of yourself away to the wrong people, hear me clearly, because I know that regret is sitting on you even now. I can redeem information. It is not beyond me. Details that were taken from you and used against you can be neutralized, and I do it in a way that will look like coincidence to everyone but you. The thing they held over you will simply stop mattering. The threat will age out. The person holding it will lose their audience, or their interest, or their memory, or their standing, and the weapon in their hand will become a stone nobody wants. I have done it before, for people whose names you know from my word, and I will do it for you, and you will not have to lift a hand. This word is going out to a great many people who have never had anyone explain their own life to them like this, and I want you to notice something about the timing of it in your own life. It did not come while you were still in the middle of the harvest. It came after the supply line was already cut. I do not usually show my children the strategy while they are still inside it, because the knowledge would make them self-conscious instead of surrendered. I show them afterward, standing on the other side, so that the revelation produces confidence rather than fear. You are on the other side of it. That is why you can hear this now, without breaking. Now, let me take you to a man who understood this better than almost anyone. David spent years being described falsely by a king, not by a stranger. By the man who had once loved him, who had watched him kill a giant, whose own son was David's closest friend, whose daughter was David's wife. That is the kind of accuser that breaks people, because the accusation comes with history attached, and history makes a lie feel credible to everyone listening. Saul told the nation David was a traitor, and David, who could have gone to any city gate in Israel and made his case with the confidence of a national hero, went instead into a cave. Read that again in your spirit. He went down into a cave, and he did not send letters. He did not organize a defense. He did not sit for interviews with the elders of the tribes to give his side. He went into the dark, and he wrote songs, and some of those songs are still keeping people alive 3,000 years later, including some of you in the last 12 months. Do you see what happened in that cave? A defense would have lasted a season. What came out of his silence has outlasted empires. And notice who came to him there. It was not the respectable. Everyone who was in distress, everyone who was in debt, everyone who was discontented, gathered themselves to him, and he became a captain over them. 400 broken men found their way to the one person in the nation who had stopped defending himself, and that cave became the founding chamber of a kingdom. The men were not attracted to his innocence. They were attracted to his weight. That is exactly what I told you earlier, and here it is confirmed in the record. Silence under false accusation does not make you invisible. It makes you a gathering point for people who are done with performance. And when the moment finally came, when Saul walked alone into the very cave where David was hiding, and David's men whispered that this was the day, that heaven had delivered his enemy into his hand, David cut a piece of cloth and nothing more, and even that small act troubled his conscience. He did not explain himself to Saul in that cave. He waited until Saul had left, and then he called out from a distance, holding up a piece of fabric, not an argument, evidence he had gathered by refusing to strike. That is the whole picture, my child. He did not defend himself with words. He let his restraint speak for him, and when he finally did speak, he had something to hold up that no argument could have produced. What are you holding up? What are you accumulating in these months of not striking? You are building a record of restraint, and on the day it is needed, you will not have to be eloquent. You will simply have to hold up what you did not do. Now understand the darker side of the same story, because I am not going to give you an easy version of this. Saul wept when David spoke. He wept, and he called David his son, and he said, "You are more righteous than I." And then he went home. And then he came back to hunt him again. Do not build your peace on their moment of clarity. Some of your accusers will have a genuine moment. They will apologize. They will cry. It will be real for them in that hour, and you will feel the years lift off your shoulders, and you will think it is finished. And then the same behavior will return in 90 days, and you will be devastated in a way you were not devastated the first time, because the second wound comes after hope. I am telling you this now so that it does not break you when it happens. An apology is not a transformation. A tear is not a covenant. Receive the apology, forgive fully, release completely, and do not hand back the keys. Forgiveness is free and immediate. Trust is rebuilt slowly and by evidence, and there is nothing unspiritual about that distinction. I forgive instantly, and I still test hearts over time. You may do the same, because you are my child, and you are permitted to be as wise as I made you. Now, there is a question underneath all of this that some of you have been carrying since the first minute of this word, and it is time I answered it. What if I was partly wrong? What if some of what they said about you was true? I felt that question move in you the moment I started defending your silence, and I am not going to pretend it is not there, because half of you have been unable to fully receive this word for one reason. You are not entirely innocent in the story, and you know it. And so every time I speak about false accusation, you flinch, because there is a piece of the accusation that landed close enough to the truth to make you doubt the whole rescue. So let us go there, right into it. Yes, some of it was true. You were difficult in that season. You did withdraw first. You did say the thing you cannot take back. You were not a good listener during those years. You were selfish in that relationship. You did handle the money badly. You were not present for your children the way you wish you had been. You did leave that church in a way that hurt people who did not deserve it. Now hear me, and hear me as your father and not as an investigator. Partial guilt does not disqualify you from divine defense. Nowhere in my word have I ever required a person to be flawless before I stood between them and their accusers. If innocence were the condition, I would have no one to defend, and the cross would have been unnecessary. The blood does not wait for you to be blameless. It answers on the ground, where you are actually guilty, which is precisely why it is called grace and not fairness. So here is what I am doing with the true parts. I am dealing with them myself, privately, in a way that does not require you to be publicly humiliated first. You have already repented for most of it. Some of you repented so many times for the same thing that repentance became a form of self-harm, and I want you to stop, because there is a kind of confession that is no longer confession, it is punishment, and I never asked for it. The moment you brought it to me, it was moved. It is not sitting in front of me right now. It is not in the file, but it is still in your accuser's file, and that is why they keep bringing it up. Do you understand the distinction? They are prosecuting a case out of a record I have already closed. They are quoting from a document that no longer exists in my court. That is why their accusations feel simultaneously true and wrong, and why you have never been able to answer them properly. You cannot answer, because half of you agrees with the evidence, and half of you knows the verdict is unjust, and you have been trying to argue two positions at once for years. Stop arguing. You are pleading a case that has already been settled by someone else's blood. And if the true parts still surface in you at night, do this instead of the courtroom. Bring the memory to me, not the argument. Say plainly, Father, that part was real. Do not decorate it. Do not contextualize it. And then let me answer and I will answer the same way every time, and you will get tired of how consistent I am. It is covered. It is finished. Get up. That is what mercy sounds like when it is not being negotiated with. If that just reached a place in you that no sermon has reached in years, and you feel led to help this work continue reaching people who have never heard mercy spoken to them that plainly, the Ko-fi link is below for anyone who wants to stand with it. Now, let me show you what happens to a person who receives that. Something in your face changes. It is not cosmetic. When a soul stops defending itself, both against the lie and against the truth, the tension that has been living behind the eyes for years releases, and people notice. They will tell you that you look rested. They will ask what you have been doing differently, and you will not know what to say because you cannot explain a court adjournment to someone who has never been on trial. But there is a second effect, and this one is going to matter in the next chapter of your life. You become impossible to blackmail. Think about it. What holds someone hostage is not the sin. It is the fear of the sin being seen. When you have made peace with the true parts of your story in my presence, when there is nothing in your history that you are still hiding from yourself, then there is nothing anyone can hold up in front of you that will make you shrink. They can say the worst thing about you, and you will feel the sorrow of it, but you will not feel the terror, because the thing they are threatening to expose has already been exposed in the only room that matters. Do you see how free that is? Most people spend their whole lives one revelation away from ruin. I am building a child who has already been fully seen and fully kept. And here is the strange gift buried in your season of being misunderstood. You have been through the rehearsal of the very thing everyone fears. You already know what it is like to be described wrongly and survive it. You already know that the room did not swallow you, that the sun still came up, that you still had breath in your body the next morning. Most people have never tested that. You have, repeatedly. So the threat that controls most of humanity has lost its authority over you, and you did not even notice it happening. That is your 7th revelation tonight, and I am counting them for you, because I do not want you to walk away from this feeling encouraged, but unable to say what you were shown. Go back over it later. Write down what struck you. A word that is not written down often becomes a mood, and moods evaporate. But a recorded word can be prayed back to me at 3 in the morning when the pressure returns. And I want you to know that the pressure will return. Not because you failed, because you are ascending, and pressure is simply what altitude feels like from the inside. Now let me speak to a specific group of you, and the rest of you can listen, because you may need this later, or you may need to carry it to someone. Some of you did not stop explaining yourself because you grew. You stopped because you broke. There was a day, something happened, or nothing happened, and you simply could not do it anymore. The words would not come. You looked at the person in front of you, and you felt the entire weight of every explanation you had ever given rise up in your throat, and you went quiet, not out of strength but out of collapse. And you have been carrying shame about that ever since, because you know your silence did not come from a place of victory. Hear me, my child. I have used collapse. I have used it many times. Some of the most significant turns in the lives of my servants began at the exact moment their strength failed, because a soul that will not stop striving cannot be repositioned while it is still moving. Elijah did not lie down under that tree in triumph. He had just seen fire fall from heaven, and he ran into the wilderness and asked me to take his life. And I did not rebuke him. I let him sleep. I fed him. I let him sleep again. And when I finally spoke, it was not in the earthquake or the wind or the fire, though all of those passed by. It was in a sound so small that the scripture struggles to name it. Do you know why I spoke to him that way? Because he had already had the loud version. He had already seen the spectacular. And the spectacular had not fixed the loneliness in him. So I came in a whisper, because a whisper requires proximity. You cannot hear a whisper from across the field. You have to come close. The reason my voice has been quiet in your life lately is not because I have withdrawn. It is because I have moved closer, and this is the volume I use when I am near. Take a moment with that. Some of you have been mourning the fire and missing the whisper. Now, before I tell you how to hold this ground practically, I have to expose something. And this is the thing I said at the very beginning I would name before this word ended. The thing that has been feeding on your explanations since you were a child. I have circled it all evening. It is time to say it plainly. There is a spirit whose entire function is accusation, and his most effective strategy has never been to attack you. It has been to get you to testify against yourself. He is called the accuser of the brethren, and he stands before me day and night with his case. That is his occupation. That is all he does. And here is what most of my children never understand about how his court operates. He needs a witness. An accusation without a witness collapses. He cannot simply assert things about you in the courts of heaven, because heaven does not run on assertion, it runs on testimony. So he requires someone to speak, and the witness he prefers above all others, the witness whose testimony carries the most damaging weight, is you. Every time you spoke about yourself in agreement with the accusation, you took the stand. Every time you said, "I am too much, I ruin things, I always do this, nobody ever stays, I should have known better, I am the problem," you were not merely expressing feelings, you were entering testimony. And your testimony about yourself is admissible in a way that his never is. That is the harvest. That is what has been feeding for all these years. And here is the second half of it, and this is the part he has worked hardest to keep buried from you. He did not always need you to agree with the accusation. He was equally satisfied when you disagreed loudly, because whether you were confessing your worthlessness or defending your innocence, you were still standing in his courtroom, still speaking about yourself, still living your life as a defendant. The goal was never to convict you. The goal was to keep you in the docket for 50 years, so that you would never take your seat. Because you were not created to be tried, you were created to rule. There is a seat that belongs to you, and I do not mean that as a decoration. In my word it is written that you are seated with Christ in heavenly places, and that language is not poetry, it is jurisdiction, and a person who is seated has authority over the matter, while a person who is standing in the box is subject to it. He cannot remove you from the seat. He has no power to do that. So instead, he spends your entire life persuading you to voluntarily stand and answer, because as long as you are answering, you are not ruling. You stopped answering. Do you understand what you did? You did not merely stop explaining yourself to people. You walked out of a courtroom that has held members of your family for generations. You broke a pattern that predates you, and the panic you are sensing in the atmosphere around you, the strange escalation, the phone calls, the rewritten stories, the sudden reaches, is not really about the people at all. It is a system realizing that its primary witness has stopped taking the stand. That is why their power is disappearing. It was never their power. It was borrowed authority, and the loan was in your name. Sit in that for a moment. You may need to breathe. And now hear the tenderness under the revelation, because I am not only exposing a strategy, I am restoring a child. You were young when this started. You did not choose it. Somebody handed you the position of the accused before you could read, and you assumed it was who you were, and you have been so faithful in a role I never assigned you. There was no rebellion in it. There was only a small person doing their best in a house where being explained was the price of being loved. I am not disappointed in the years you spent there. I am simply calling you out of the building. If this is the moment where something finally named itself for you, if you have been feeling this for years without a word for it, then let this be your record of it. Comment, "I receive it," so that it is written somewhere outside your own head, because things that get spoken out of the heart and into the open have a way of staying settled. And if you scroll and see that hundreds of others wrote the same 3 words tonight, understand what you are looking at. That is not a comment section. That is a courtroom emptying. Now, some of you need one more thing before I move to instruction, because there is a fear sitting under all of this. You are afraid of who you will be without the role. You have been the misunderstood one for so long that it has become an identity, and identities, even painful ones, provide a strange comfort. If you are no longer the one who has to explain, who are you? If you are no longer fighting for your name, what occupies all that space? There is a reason people return to prisons after release, and it is not that they love the cell, it is that the cell was known. I am not going to leave you in an empty room, my child. What fills the space is authority, and authority arrives as responsibility, not as applause. You will find that people begin bringing you things, decisions, burdens, questions they have not asked anyone else. It will start small, and it will be inconvenient, and it will often come at a bad hour, and you will realize that the space where your self-defense used to live is now occupied by other people's actual needs. That is what heaven does with vacated territory. It never leaves it empty. It reassigns it. And here is a detail I want you to watch for, because it is going to happen soon, and you will almost miss it. Someone who was once part of the accusation is going to come to you for help, not to apologize. For help. They will need something, and they will come to you, and the moment will be so awkward that you will want to make a joke to relieve the pressure. And you will feel two things at once, and they will fight in your chest. An old bitterness rising, and something new, something wide, something that has been growing quietly in the silence. That is your examination, not the insult, the request. How you handle that one moment will determine the size of what I can trust you with in the next season, because I do not measure a person's readiness by how they endure their enemies. I measure it by what they do when their enemy is suddenly in their hands and no one is watching. Do not repay, and I will tell you why immediately, because I promised I would never leave you holding a restraint without a reason. When you help a person who wounded you, you are not being weak, and you are not enabling them, and you are not pretending it did not happen. You are demonstrating that your supply does not come from them. Every act of undeserved kindness from a person who has stopped needing approval is a public statement in the unseen realm that there is another source, and the entire kingdom of darkness is forced to witness it. That is warfare. It looks like a favor. It functions like a decree. But I will add one boundary, because I am not careless with you. Do not confuse helping with re-entering. You can hand a person what they need without moving back into the house you escaped from. Give from the doorway if you must. There is no dishonor in that. Even I set a boundary in Eden, and I am love itself. If you have made it this far into this word, then this is not curiosity anymore. This is hunger, and hunger like that is not accidental. Subscribe if this channel keeps finding you in the exact places you have not told anyone about, because messages like this one arrive in sequence, and the people who stay connected are the ones who receive the confirmation while it is still in season, rather than after the decision has already been made. Now, let me get practical, because revelation without practice becomes nostalgia within a week, and I did not bring you this far to give you a feeling. So, here is how you hold this ground, and I am giving it to you simply, the way a father teaches a child something he will need for the rest of his life. First, answer to me daily, out loud if you can. This is the one that keeps your silence from turning into stone. A mouth that never speaks about itself to anyone, eventually forgets how to be known. And I did not close your mouth toward them in order to close your heart toward me. So every day, tell me the thing you wanted to tell them, all of it, the unfairness, the version of events they will never hear, the sentence you have been rehearsing. Say it to me, in the car, in the shower, on the walk. Let me be the room you empty into. This is not a therapeutic exercise. It is a transfer. Every explanation you bring to me, instead of them, is a case relocated to the right court. And I want you to notice something the first week you do it seriously. The compulsion loses its grip almost immediately. You will start a sentence to me and find that you do not want to finish it, because the need was never for the words to be heard. The need was for them to be received, and I receive on the first syllable. Second, stop giving reasons for your no. Watch how much of your energy goes into justifying the smallest boundaries. You cannot decline an invitation without constructing an alibi. You cannot say you are unavailable without listing evidence. You are still, in miniature, standing in the box, and you do it a dozen times a week without noticing. Try it this week. Say no with no attachment. It will feel almost violent the first time. Your hands may actually shake. And then a strange thing will happen. The world will not end, and the person will simply say, "All right," and you will hang up and sit there stunned by how little it cost. And something in your nervous system will begin to learn a truth your theology already knew. You were never required to make your case in order to exist. Third, do not build a monument to your restraint. There is a subtle trap here, and I love you enough to name it. Some people leave the courtroom and immediately begin telling everyone how quiet they have become. They post about it. They mention it in conversations. I have been through so much, and I never said a word. They say 12 times a month. That is the old hunger wearing new clothes. If the silence becomes your new material for approval, you have simply changed the currency and kept the transaction. Hold it in secret. What is held in secret compounds. What is announced is spent. Fourth, bless them specifically, not generally, not the vague prayer that costs nothing. Take the name that has been living in your chest, say it out loud in my presence, and ask me to be good to them in a way you can be specific about. Ask for their marriage, ask for their health, ask for their child, and do it when you do not mean it, because obedience precedes feeling, and you will wait a long time if you are waiting to feel like it. I want to tell you what this actually accomplishes, because it is not about them. Bitterness needs a fixed target. It survives by keeping a person frozen in the worst thing they ever did. The moment you pray for someone's actual life, their present life, their aging body, their tired mind, their unraveling family, the frozen image cracks, and you cannot hate a person you are seeing clearly. That is not weakness, and it is not naivety. It is the surgical removal of the one root that could still poison everything I am growing in you. Fifth, and this one I am going to ask you to write down. Keep a record for me, not for them. Write down what happens in this season. The dates, the strange coincidences, the moments where a door opened that you did not push, the times you almost broke your silence and did not. Write down what you prayed and what you saw, not to prove anything to anyone, and never to be used as evidence later. Keep it, because there is a day coming, perhaps 6 years from now, when a younger soul will sit in front of you with the same fire in their throat and the same story stuck in their chest, and you will need more than a feeling to give them. You will need the details. You will need to say, "On this day, this happened, and it did not kill me, and here is what it produced." Your record will be someone's map. Do not lose it. Now I want to speak to those of you who are afraid that you are simply too far into this to change anything. Some of you have been carrying this for 30 years. You are not a young person deciding how to live. You are further along the road than that, and there is a quiet fear in you that this word arrived beautifully, but late, and that the version of you who could have used it is already behind you. Hear me carefully, because I am only going to say this kind of thing once tonight, and I want it to land where it belongs. You are not too late, and I am not saying that as a comfort slogan. I am saying it as a statement about how I work with time. I do not merely give you a future. I redeem the years themselves. There is a promise in my word about restoring the years that were eaten, and people read that as if I simply add better years at the end. That is not what it means. It means the eaten years become useful. It means the wasted decade becomes the very credential that qualifies you for the assignment. It means the 30 years of being misunderstood are not 30 years subtracted from your ministry. They are your ministry, in a form you could not recognize while you were inside them. Nothing about your life is being replaced. It is being repurposed. And this is why I have taken so long with you. A short story cannot hold what I am putting into yours. Now, there is something else I have not addressed, and it belongs here, before we move toward the end, because for some of you, this is the entire weight on your chest tonight. Some of the ones who misjudged you are going to come back, not the accusers, the ones who believed them. There is a particular grief you have never described to anyone, and it is not about the person who lied. It is about the ones who listened, the friend who went quiet, the relative who chose the easier side, the people who did not attack you, who simply became unavailable, who let a story stand without ever asking you a single question. That is the wound, is it not? Not the accusation, the silence of the ones who should have asked. They will come back, some of them, not all, and I will not promise you a number, but some of them are going to appear again over the next stretch of your life, at a wedding, at a funeral, in a store, in a message that begins with an apology for the length of the message, and they will not know how to say what they need to say. Here is my instruction, and it may be the hardest thing I have asked of you tonight. Make it easy for them. Do not make them earn the conversation. Do not perform your coolness. Do not make them stand in the very box you just walked out of, because if you do, you will have become the court, and I did not free you from a system in order to make you its next judge. You will have all the power in that moment, and that is precisely why I am talking to you about it now, while it is still hypothetical and your heart is soft. Power is easiest to distribute correctly before you are holding it. And if you can do that, if you can meet someone who abandoned you and make the road back short for them, then you will have completed the entire circle of this season, because at that point, the accusation will have produced in you the one thing it was designed to prevent: mercy that does not need an explanation. That is what this was all for, not your silence, your mercy. Now there are two things left that I have deliberately held back, and they are not small, so do not let your attention drift here at the end. The first one is about your body. You have treated all of this as a spiritual matter and an emotional matter, and it has been both, but it has also been physical, and nobody has told you that. Your body kept the record when your mouth was closed. Every argument you did not have still moved through your muscles. The jaw that locks at night, the shoulders that live somewhere near your ears, the stomach that turns before you open a message, the breath that stays shallow in certain rooms and only goes deep when you are alone in the car. That is not weakness of faith. That is the biology of a person who spent 20 years bracing for an accusation. And I am telling you tonight that the release has to reach that layer too, or you will carry the posture of the trial into the freedom of the verdict, and you will walk into your new season with the shoulders of a defendant. So let it out of your body, as well as your spirit. Unclench. Right now, wherever you are, notice where you are holding. Let the jaw go. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath go all the way to the bottom, for the first time in a long while. That small motion is not a relaxation technique. It is an act of agreement, and heaven reads the body as surely as it reads the mouth. There are healings in this that people have prayed for in isolation for years, never understanding that the condition was tethered to a case they never dropped. I am not saying all sickness is that. I am saying some of yours is, and you know which part I am speaking to, because your hand just moved toward the place while I was talking. I am touching that. And here is the second thing, and it is the one I have been saving for the very end, because it will answer a prayer you stopped praying. You will be spoken for, not by you. In rooms you will never enter, on days you will never hear about. I have already begun assigning voices to your case. It is one of the quietest things I do, and it is one of the most complete. A person who barely knows you will say your name well in front of someone who mattered. A former colleague will correct a story in a hallway. A relative who never defended you at the table will defend you in a car, on the way home, to their spouse, and you will never be told. Understand why I do it this way. If you were present, you would say thank you, and you would feel indebted. And gratitude toward a person can quietly become a new form of dependence. So I have your name honored where you cannot hear it, in order to keep your freedom uncontaminated. But there is a deeper reason, and this is the last mystery I will open for you tonight. An advocate speaks best about a person who is not in the room. When you are present, people manage their words around your feelings. When you are absent, they say what they actually believe. So every good thing said about you in your absence is not politeness, it is testimony, and it is being gathered. That is the reversal I promised you at the very beginning, and here is its final shape. For years, your accusers spoke about you when you were not there, and it wounded you, and you could not answer it. Now the same room, the same absence, the same mechanism is being used in the opposite direction, and you cannot manage that either. You will simply live your life while a case is being built for you in rooms you cannot enter, by people you did not recruit, with evidence you did not provide. You have been talked about. You are about to be spoken for. Do you understand what has happened tonight? You came into this word believing you had lost something. Your voice, your standing, your circle, your ability to make people see you. And I have shown you, layer by layer, that every one of those losses was a removal that made room for something with a longer life. The mouth was closed to be loaded. The circle was thinned to be replaced. The story was left uncorrected so it could be outlived. The years were spent so they could be spent again, redeemed, in someone else's rescue. Nothing has been wasted, not 1 hour of it. Before I pray, hear this last instruction, and let it be the thing you carry out of tonight. When the pressure comes back, and it will, and someone says the thing that makes your chest go hot, and every reason you have ever prepared rises up in your throat and stands at the gate of your mouth, all you have to do is remember one sentence. The case is not being heard here. Say it internally. Do not say it to them. That single sentence will hold you in more moments than 100 sermons, because it moves the entire matter, in one breath, out of a room where you can only lose, and into a court where you have already won. And now, before I pray this over you, everything that needed to be settled has been settled, and there is nothing left standing between you and the ceiling of this word. There is a door that has been standing in front of you, and you have been treating it as though it is closed. It is not closed. It is unattended. You have walked past it for months, maybe longer, because nothing about it announced itself. There was no confirmation, no sign, no person telling you that you were qualified. And you assumed that the absence of invitation meant the absence of permission, because that is what a lifetime in the courtroom teaches a soul. You have been waiting for someone to open it for you, and nobody is coming, and that is not neglect. That is deliberate. I withheld the invitation because you were still the kind of person who would have gone through the door in order to prove something. And a room entered for the purpose of vindication becomes a stage, and stages are exhausting, and I have too much love for you to let you build the rest of your life on a stage. But you are not that person anymore. Something changed in you during the silence, and so now the door simply stands there, unlocked, unguarded, and the only thing preventing your entry is a habit of asking permission from people who never had the authority to grant it in the first place. You may go through it. I am telling you plainly, because you have been waiting to be told. Nobody is going to hand you a certificate. Nobody is going to announce you. The confirmation you have been asking me for is happening right now, at this hour, through a message you almost did not finish watching. And I will tell you exactly what will happen when you step through, so that you are not disoriented by it. At first, nothing. That is important. There will be no thunder and no immediate reward, and the enemy will use that quiet to tell you that you were wrong about all of this. Do not accept that interpretation. The first stretch, past a threshold, is always silent, because you are being observed by heaven before you are being celebrated by earth, and I have never once reversed that order. Then, connection. Someone will appear who has been waiting on the other side of your obedience. They have been praying for something and did not know that the answer required a person, and the person was you, and you were on the wrong side of a door for years while they waited. Then, demand. The thing will require more of you than you expected. and you will finally understand why I spent so long taking the need for approval out of you. You cannot lead people while you are seeking their affirmation. Every leader who never had their approval hunger dealt with becomes a hostage to the very people they were sent to serve, and I refuse to do that to you. And here is the last thing, and I have saved it for the end on purpose. The people who are watching their power disappear are not going to be your final audience. I know that some part of you has been holding on for the day they see it. Even after everything I have said tonight, even after you laid the courtroom scene down, some quiet corner of you is still hoping they will be in the room when the door opens. So let me tell you the truth in love, the way only a father can. They will not be there. Most of them will simply drift out of the story, not with a dramatic ending. They will move, or their attention will shift, or a season will change, and one day you will realize that you have not thought about them in 3 weeks, and the realization itself will feel like a small resurrection. The people who defined the first half of your life will become a footnote in the second half, and you will not be able to explain to anyone how that happened, because it did not happen through confrontation. It happened through relocation. That is how I close chapters, rarely with a scene, usually with a distance. So do not spend one more month of your life waiting for an audience that is being written out of the script. Look forward instead. There are faces you have not met yet who will know your name the way heaven says it, and they are much closer than you think. I want you to hold one more thing before I pray, and hold it gently, because it is the reason for everything I have said tonight. You were never on trial. Not once. Not on the worst day, not when they gathered and talked, not when the message went around, not when you sat in the car and could not go inside, not when you were 19 and they blamed you for the thing that was not yours to carry. The whole proceeding was illegitimate from the first hour, and the only reason it had any weight at all was that you kept showing up to defend yourself in a court that had no standing. You have stopped showing up. And what you are witnessing now, the disappearance of their leverage, the strange quiet, the shift in the room, the reversal you cannot quite explain, is nothing more than a false court dissolving for lack of participation. Let it dissolve. Do not attend the last hearing. Do not go back for the final word. Do not send the message that explains one final time, because the moment you refuse that last hearing, something is released that has been held in escrow over your life for years, and I would rather show you than describe it. You will know it when the door opens, and it does not feel like relief. It will feel like recognition. It will feel like arriving somewhere you have already been in your dreams. Breathe for a moment before I pray. And if this word has walked with you the whole way tonight, and you want to help keep it going out to people in hidden battles, the Ko-fi link below is there for anyone who feels led to support this work. Now, my child, come here. Let me pray this over you, and let me seal what has been done tonight. Father, I come before you, holding the one who is listening right now, and I am not going to pray a general prayer over a specific wound. I bring the mouth first, the mouth that has spent years in defense, the mouth that learned to explain before it learned to rest. I ask you to take every word that was spent proving worth and return the strength of it to this soul, and where language was used up on the undeserving, let there be a restoration of speech that carries fire in it. Loose the tongue from the assignment of self-justification. Loose it completely, in the name of Jesus. I speak now to the courtroom that has held this life for so long, and I address it directly, because it has held its position long enough. Every proceeding built on an accusation yen voice, you never authorized, I declare dissolved. Every witness that was recruited out of a child's fear, I dismiss. Every self-testimony given in agreement with the accuser, spoken in exhaustion, spoken in shame, spoken at 2 in the morning into a pillow, I revoke by the blood of Jesus, and I ask that it be struck from the record and remembered no more. And even as I seal that, something else is being loosed, and I want you to hear it while it happens. The years are being counted, not the losses, the years themselves. Every season that felt like waste is being weighed and turned into inheritance. And I ask, Father, that what was stolen would return not as compensation, but as capacity. Let this one receive back more than what was taken, and let it come in a form they can actually carry. I pray now over the exhaustion. Lord, you know the difference between a soul that is falling and a soul that is holding something up, and you have already told this one which they are. So I ask for the strength that comes without adrenaline, the kind that does not need a crisis to activate. Let sleep return. Let the mind that has been holding hearings at night be released from the docket, and let the nights become a place of instruction instead of litigation. Let dreams begin again where they stopped. Strengthen these hands, Father, not their argument, their hands. Let the work rise. I bless the silence now. I bless it as a sacred thing and not as a symptom. Let it be clean silence, free of bitterness, free of revenge, free of the subtle pleasure of withholding. Where this silence has begun to harden into a wall, break the wall and leave the discernment. Where it has become a hiding place from being known, dismantle the hiding and preserve the wisdom. Make this one unmovable and still reachable, immovable in identity and open in love, because that is the shape of Christ and nothing less will do. And I pray specifically for the ones who are grieving people who are still alive. That is a lonely grief, and it is not often prayed for, so I bring it now. Comfort the ache of the empty seat. Comfort the ones who lost their circle by getting healthy. Send the friend who does not require an explanation. Send them soon. Send them in this season, and not in a distant one, and let there be recognition in the first conversation. Now to the enemy that has been assigned to this voice since childhood, I say plainly, your access is revoked. You have fed on this one's testimony for the last time. The supply is cut, the lever is dead, the mirror is turned, and the seat that was vacated has been reoccupied by its rightful owner. Every retaliation you have scheduled for the coming weeks, I ask the Lord to intercept before it lands, and where it is permitted to touch, let it produce nothing but further deliverance. Father, I ask for the door, the unattended door. Let there be a sudden clarity about which door it is. Let confusion lift within days, not years. Give a specific instruction, in words simple enough that it cannot be mistaken for imagination, and give the courage to move without waiting for a committee to approve it. And as this one steps through, let the silence that was formed in the wilderness become authority in the room. Let their yes carry weight. Let their no carry finality. Let their prayer over a sick body carry heat. Let their words in a hard conversation carry the ability to change the direction of a life, because that is what was purchased in all those quiet years, and I am asking that it be released now. I pray for the moment of the request, the day the one who wounded them comes needing help. Prepare the heart in advance. Let mercy arrive faster than memory. Let there be no performance in that room, no cold politeness, no display of how far they have come. Just the clean, unhurried kindness of a person who has stopped needing anything from the person in front of them. And for those who will come back, the ones who went quiet when they should have asked, make the road back short. Take the pride that would make them stand outside, and take the pride that would make them wait to be begged. Reconcile what can be reconciled, and where a relationship cannot be restored, let the memory of it stop bleeding. I pray now over the body that carried this. Father, you know where the bracing settled. Touch the jaw that locks in sleep, the shoulders that never came down, the stomach that turns before a phone lights up, the chest that has not held a full breath in years. Release the posture of the accused from this frame. Where a condition has been tethered to a case that was never dropped, let the case fall, and let the body follow it into rest. Heal what was held. And I thank you for the voices you are assigning in rooms this one will never enter. Multiply them. Let the record be corrected in hallways and in cars and at tables where this name comes up, and let none of it ever reach them in a way that makes them owe anybody anything. I ask for a specific sign, Not a sign to prove you are real, but a sign to confirm the timing. In the next few days, let something ordinary confirm this word. A sentence from a stranger, a number, a song at the exact moment, a name that appears twice in 1 hour. Something small enough that only this one will understand it, and clear enough that it cannot be argued away by morning. Now, my child, I want to speak the last portion of this directly over you, and I want you to receive it as if my hand is on your head, because it is. I have seen every room you sat in without a defender. I have counted every hour you spent constructing a case nobody would ever hear. I know the sentence you have never said out loud, the one you have carried since you were young, the one that begins with, "I only wanted them to." I know the version of the story that is true, and I have never once needed you to prove it to me. You are not the person they described, and you are not required to become someone else in order to escape that description. You simply have to stop attending the trial. Your name is not being defended, your name is being rebuilt. Those are different works, and the second one takes longer and lasts forever. I am placing my hand over the part of you that still wants to be believed, and I am not removing that desire, because I put it there. I made you for recognition. I made you to be known, but I am transferring where that desire is answered, and from this day, when the need to be understood rises in you, you will feel it turn toward me instead of toward them, and you will find me already answering. Receive it now. Do not analyze it. Receive it. The mouth is free. The record is clean. The court is closed. The supply is cut. The door is open. The years are being restored. The voice is being loaded. And what you are watching is not their downfall, and I never asked you to enjoy their loss. What you are watching is the simple, quiet, irreversible ending of an arrangement that heaven never approved. Walk out of the building, child. Do not look back at the gallery. Do not deliver a closing statement. Let the doors swing behind you and let them close. And go where I am sending you, and speak only what I give you to speak, and let your life do the rest of the talking for the next 20 years. I am with you. I have been with you the entire time, standing in the hallway, waiting for you to finish a conversation that was never going to end. It is ended now. Go in peace, go in wait, go in mercy, and know that the God who kept you quiet is the same God who is about to make you heard. In the name of Jesus, it is sealed. Amen.